Hello everyone. Так. So hello. I'm going to invite Felicity to the talk now. Hi Felicity, are you there? Yeah, hello Felicity.
Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
And you, hi.
Yeah, I don't think I've met you. So, and I don't think we ever talked even on email. So nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Yeah, I look after Trudy at UCA, so I should be able to tell you what she can tell you.
Sure. So I hope everything is okay with Trudy. I'm going to just explain. I'm going to explain to the audience that we were supposed to have Trudy leave today in our session, but she had some kind of an emergency, so she had to catch a train and fly maybe somewhere. So we're having Felicity, who is going to tell us about UCA, the University for Creative Arts, which is based in the United Kingdom. Yeah, so Felicity, my name is Oksana, and I'm the owner and the education consultant at the agency AMDA from Riga, Latvia. So we are based in Riga. Mainly our students are from Latvia, but we also work with students from other Baltic countries, Russia, Belarus, Egypt. Like today, this year, I have a few students from quite exotic countries as well.
Fabulous.
So yeah, I should tell you that I'm a great lover of the United Kingdom. So hopefully I will be able to visit your country at the end of November. I have a few friends who are actually my best friends living on the island. So this is my personal, personal super love.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, I usually go to London, but I've been to Canterbury a number of times, and I've been to Farm. Yeah. I've never been to Epsome. So I visited a few places where UCA is based, but not all of them. So today we are going to talk about, so the main actually idea of having those talks was to tell our students, their parents, potential students, about how things are going on at universities abroad, whether you guys are on campus, whether you guys are online, what's going on after the pandemic. And with Britain, we also have another topic that I will be discussing a little bit with you. It's the Brexit thing. So which of course, it influenced all of us, but the doors are open, as we all know, and with some different requirements, with some different aspects, but students are still very much welcome in the United Kingdom and by UCA as well.
Definitely, yeah, very much.
Yeah, so Felicity, tell us. So, are you guys open? Do you teach on campus? How are things going on with the university?
So, just in terms of sort of COVID and restrictions, yeah, we have been open now for a really long time. Because we are a creative, practical university, we were one of the first groups of universities who were actually allowed to physically go back to campus. So we're really lucky. We've had students on campus consistently since March last year. Since March this year. Sorry, thinking in years.
Yeah.
And I think, I wouldn't say that we've done anything different to most universities. All of us have put the same kind of COVID regulations in place. But as an institution, we've been very lucky, and we've had a very, very low number of COVID cases. Because obviously with art and design, you know, the students are in the studios and they're naturally socially distanced most of the time. You know, if you're making a sword in one of our metalworking classrooms, you are going to be 4 meters away from someone who else is in the classroom. So there is naturally a lot of space within those rooms. There's very, very few instances of crowded lecture halls. So all our students have been back on campus now for a long time. We've had very few numbers of positive COVID cases. All of the staff and the students are still doing PCR tests twice a week, where you stick up and wiggle around. Very unpleasant. And we're all wearing masks on campus still, and naturally socially distanced. So yeah, it feels, I wouldn't say it feels completely normal, because I don't know if anything will ever be normal again. But it does feel a lot better than it did previously. And I think students and staff feel very, very safe on campus.
Okay, hopefully it's going to stay the same way, you know, during the course of this academic year.
Yes.
But this differs a lot from what some of the students who are like, from what we have, for instance, here in Latvia at the moment. So we're in lockdown.
Okay.
Until the 15th of November, and hopefully we are going to open up afterwards. But universities and schools are not doing really well in Latvia. So I believe those students who actually went to study abroad, including the UK, are very lucky, because they actually can experience the university life after 2 years of studies online at school.
Exactly.
Yeah, so has anything changed in terms of how you deliver lectures, in terms of how you deliver classes at university? Have you kind of reduced the number of students per class? I understand that, yeah, as you mentioned, you have those studios and your classes are generally not too big, yeah? Exactly. But anyway, so are there some kind of, you know, maybe positive even changes that COVID has brought into the university?
Yeah, I think the best thing, not the best thing about COVID, but the positive change that has been made is that now most of our lectures, so, you know, we do 80% of our classes are practical, you know, you're in a studio, but those lectures, those theory lectures where students have to sit and listen to someone and take notes, they do now have the option to go to it in person, and then to have the fully recorded lecture online as well. So previously, and this is most universities, I think, most universities would only do the in-person version. You wouldn't get a recorded session. Now you have a recorded session afterwards, which makes it really accessible for students. So if students are concerned about those occasions where they're in a lecture hall, you know, they have the flexibility to go or not to go. Also makes it a lot more accessible for students who've got learning disabilities, or they might learn in different ways. So they have that extra support of having that recorded lecture, often with closed captions as well, if they're hard of hearing, or if they struggle a little bit with listening to English. So that's been really positive. It's forced, the situation has forced a lot of allowances and online learning, which I don't think any universities really did previously very well. So that has been a positive change. Yes, we have like halved the size of some of our classes. So in the practical courses, where we could only, you know, where we could fit maybe 20 people into a studio, we now have half that class, and they do 2 separate sessions instead. So you have much fewer students in that space, fighting that space, and it really gives students a lot more access to things as well. So even if our classes were small to begin with, they're even smaller now, so they get much more access to equipment, much more face time with the academics as well. So those are probably the only
And it's about practical classes. You know, sometimes I get those questions from students and their parents, what I mean by practical classes. For instance, when I say that a course in architecture, for instance, can be taught very differently at different universities. At some universities, you might have like 60% of academic exams in a course of architecture. And as I know, for instance, at UCA, the same architecture course is mostly based on coursework, and you don't really have those academic written exams that you have to perform. Sometimes I get the questions whether it's good or bad. I say that's for very different types of students. So how would you describe this, you know, practical approach to teaching the courses at UCA?
So for art, if you are truly an art, I mean, architecture is a perfect example. You know, architecture, there are kind of two branches of architecture students. There's the architecture student that basically wants to be a structural engineer. And then there's the architecture student that really wants to make something incredible and, you know, a landmark on the skyline. You know, you've got your structural engineers, and then you've got your Zaha Hadid, who's going to create the next incredible monument. So and we are the Zaha Hadids. We are the creative students. We are the you know, Tim Cook from Apple. We are the people who are the creative genius behind the practical product. So we want our students to be actually in the lab. You know, it depends what course they're doing. So if they're doing crafts, they will be physically in the rooms making things with their hands. If they're doing animation, they could be doing from everything from like actual sketch work to stop motion, you know, playing with clay figurines, or doing, you know, 3D software on the computer. So it really depends what course it is, but it's very much about learning those practical approaches, whether that is physically making something or learning a software technology system, and then experimenting and playing with that. And, you know, the students are constantly, they are creating in the classrooms, so, and in the studios. So the academics and the technicians are always there guiding them and pushing them to try something different. So rather than just being lectured to and being taught how to pass an exam, they are being guided in their own work, their own motivation. You know, every artist is different, so the academics are to find what is you as an artist and get you to be a better artist in yourself. That's really the difference. It's teaching to pass an exam or pushing you to be a better artist in the practical way that applies to your program.
So what about such courses as, for instance, business management? Because you also have that course. And according to, I think that Guardian or the Good University Guide, where you actually are somewhere in the top of the business management programs.
We are, yeah. So we are 7th in the Guardian Business League tables. And considering our business school for the creative industry is only really, you know, 2-3 years old during the middle of a pandemic, we're very, very pleased with that. So with the business courses, the business courses do tend to be a little bit more, obviously, you know, theory and learning and lectures, but the way that they become practical is with the live briefs. So we have a lot of companies that come to, well, there's 2 ways we do it. So we do it internally. So, you know, your academics give you projects, whether it's by yourself or in a group with students from other courses. You are effectively setting up a company, or you are doing an aspect of business management. So you are doing that practical program, practical project. So how do I do, so who is who in my project? How do we manage them? Who does what within it? It's not just listening to people talk. Well, in theory, you know, you do this when you do a business. No, we actually get students to divide into different roles within a company. They have a brief that they have to work to, and they have to present that project. Sometimes they actually even have to make the project happen. Like fashion business management students, you know, they've been involved in creating the Christmas shop windows for places like Harrods and Selfridges on Oxford Street. And whilst they may not be the actual physically very creative people, they've been part of the management team to understand what people are looking at and how they actually put that into practice. And then the other side of it, so we have that internal, you know, project management, and then we have companies that come to us and say, look, we really like UCA, we've been working with you for a long time, we want your design, innovation and brand management students to come up with an idea for this project. How can you make it work? And then very often that will actually be placed into the real world. You know, we see a lot of UCA branding and a lot of the projects that students have worked on out in the real world, and it makes us as staff quite annoying, because we spend a lot of our time going, one of our students did that. One of my students. So they get that real hands-on experience. Again, it's not just sitting and listening to someone talking, it's actually getting that experience. And as well with business courses, sorry, I keep talking, but as well with business courses, we really push them to do projects with students who are more creative. Because in the world, you know, you never work by yourself. So you, as the business person, as the manager of the creatives, have to learn at university how to work in a project, how to manage people, how to actually set things up so that this works as it's supposed to. So we start that real world practical application of your course at the very beginning.
Okay, so this business management courses, what would be the best profile, or what is the applicant's profile for your course? For instance, if someone is it someone who is interested in arts, in creative industries, in performing arts, but would love to have a kind of, you know, a connection with that world and be part of the, as you say, the entrepreneurial spirit? So
there's two kinds of students, I'd say. Yes, there's the students who, you know, I love fashion, I love acting, I love music, but I don't want to do the actual creation of it. I want to be the management side of it. Absolutely perfect for those students. And then there's the other kind of student who might not have a particular interest in any specific creative degree. You know, they might not really particularly care about animation or game design, but they know that they are not a traditional boring business student. They want to be working for companies who are innovative and pushing the boundaries of what is happening. You know, Apple and Google absolutely lead the way in innovation. They are looking for students who aren't traditional business students. They want students who can push the boundaries and be creative in their thinking. So students don't necessarily have to be interested in fashion or music or you know, illustration, but if they are innovative and creative in their thinking and they're different, that's who we want. We want the entrepreneurs, we want the Elon Musks, we want the branding and Apple, like oh god, Steve Jobs, I can't remember his name then. We want those students who can push the industry, be different. And industry wants them. Industry wants creative students. They don't, you know, if this is the problem in a lot of countries and a lot of industries, is that everything has been the same for the last 50 years. Even before the pandemic, it was changing radically to bring in students who are more creative and different in their thinking, rather than students who just follow the traditional business model. But after the pandemic, you know, everything's changed, and they want students like that who can be different more than ever before. So we have had just so many companies and so many employment opportunities for our students after they've graduated. It's just been wonderful.
Yeah, actually, there is an image on this market, at least on our market, and I'm trying to do my best to kind of break this image that's doing business. You know, you have to go to like a business school and, you know, study math and finances and statistics. And of course, there are parts of the business that will always be into math and statistics and analytics, etc., etc. But my feeling is, and you've also confirmed this, that lots of companies, especially huge big companies or startups, they're actually looking for people with innovative thinking. And sometimes actually a fashion designer might be a better option for the same Google. And I had this case in my life, with one of my students, than a regular business degree actually graduates. So I had the girl who graduated with a degree in fashion design, and you know, she was quite, you know, she had this character for organizing things and for making projects happen. And yeah, she was employed by Google as with a degree in fashion design to run projects. So they were actually looking for someone with capabilities of running projects, of communicating with customers, probably, you know, doing sales, etc., etc., but with this an absolutely different creative thinking and a kind of a different approach to doing things. So I'm really for that, really, yeah. I definitely see the future, you know, in that, and lots of companies that I know, or what I feel is that, you know, the jobs that appear on the market, they are kind of on the edge of different, you know, industries. So they need people who are creative but able to, let's say, run, maybe write a code. And at the same time, they might need a person who is selling maybe a financial program, but he needs to be very, you know, able to communicate to the customers. Yeah. So yeah, it's especially after the pandemic, you know, when lots of communication went online, and as we all know, online, what we actually perceive, we perceive visuals and sounds and things like that. So creative students might be on demand or already on demand, and might be, you know, growing in demand in the future. Yeah, so I'm really excited. Actually, we got a comment, and I know that student. That's a student. That's one of my students who is in his last year at UCA, and he does architecture. So he says that he's more than proud to be a UCA student and would recommend the university to anyone who wants to connect their life with arts and especially architecture. Yeah, yeah, because in Latvia, the architecture that we have here at universities is very formal, very traditional. And what I usually see that those students who maybe are super creative, but they might not be doing well, let's say, in mathematics or physics. Like, they do okay, but they are not geniuses in mathematics and physics. They give up on their dream of becoming an architect or getting into the architecture industry. So in this case, I usually say that United Kingdom and British universities might be a perfect choice for them, because in Britain you offer creative architecture, and then you have this different type of architecture, which is more traditional, based on mathematics and physics. Yeah. So how hard do you need to, like how what's that word in English? Let me remember. So I wanted to ask how professional, what kind of professional type level of knowledge and previous experience do students need to have to get to UCA in terms of their portfolios, for instance?
So the reality is, in terms of experience, the reality is for most international students in most countries, they simply do not have the opportunity to go and get the work experience. So it's never, we're never going to demand it of students to have work experience, because it simply isn't an option for them. So there's two things that we really want to see from our students. We want to see in their portfolios their understanding of the subject that they want to study. Very similar to what we tell you about your personal statement, but your portfolio is a physical version of that. So your portfolio should be 80% or so related to the course that you want to study. Now, and it needs to show that in that 80, by showing us that 80%, you are showing that you clearly understand what you want to do. Now, if we were to talk about architecture students, we would want to see model making. Could literally just be with straws and matchsticks. So the actual 3D modeling. If you've had a chance to do any ceramics, that's great as well, because it shows that you understand 3D modeling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It can be landscape or urban photography. That's great. We love to see sketch work. So we always love to see sketch work. For everything, we just love sketch work. But for architecture in particular, we would be looking for sketch work that is basically landscape and lines. So you could send me an architecture portfolio filled with sketches of boxes stacked on top of each other, and that indicates your 3D spatial awareness and your understanding of the formulation and importance of lines in art and design.
Okay.
You know, we're looking at an animation portfolio. Your portfolio would be body drawing. I can't remember the proper word for it. Would be body drawing, lots of hands, lots of eyes, lots of expressions, character profiles. I know film is quite popular for you guys, so in a portfolio we'd probably looking at things like storyboards, movie reviews. We'd want moving images, but the 80% that needs to apply to the 80% that needs to apply to the course is a broad 80%. You know, there's so many different things that can show your understanding of the program. We really want to see, it's always great as well to see you looking at other artists. You know, if you are an architecture student, how are you inspired by the world around you? Which architects inspire you? If you're film, you know, what kind of film directors do you love? The students just put up, when they did their portfolio, they included like Jenga blocks and people making models on The Sims. That's perfect. It's absolutely brilliant. We've had some of our architecture students sent screenshots from Minecraft, which was awesome because they were actually making cities and making buildings. You know, there's so much that you can do. It's just about showing that you understand the subject. The difference between an undergraduate portfolio and a foundation portfolio is that an undergraduate portfolio shows that you have looked at, you know what architecture is, you know what film is. You might not be an expert in it, and you might need a lot of help, but you know what it is. Whereas a foundation portfolio is basically a collection of pretty images without context. That's the difference.
Okay. So also, you know, when we talk about the United Kingdom, Britain, arts, design, what we usually, you know, have in our minds, we usually have London in our mind. So, you know, why would students, or why should students choose UCA over, you know, universities, for instance, in London, where a kind of, you know, all life happens?
Yeah.
And, you know, London never sleeps, just like Moscow never sleeps, just like New York never sleeps. So what would be, you know, your suggestion, or why would they need to choose UC over London? Sometimes it's hard to persuade them that, you know, even a smaller town or a smaller place can give you lots of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, London's wonderful. I love London. I go in and out all the time. I couldn't live there because I'm old and I don't like cities that much, but I love London. For artists need to be where inspires them. And as inspiring as London can be, you are still in a city and there's no other environment within that. You're still in a city. And yes, there are regional differences within London itself, but it's still the city of London, and it's not...
It's fast. It's fast, yeah. It eats you up sometimes.
It can, yeah. It can be very overwhelming. It's very difficult to find inspiration when you are 18 in a very overwhelming and very busy city that a lot of the time actually does look very similar, the whole of it. You know, it has little bits and it has inspiration in areas. But as someone who's just moved there, you're going to find most of London, the areas that you live in, actually do look very similar. Whereas if you're somewhere like Canterbury is one of the oldest cities in the UK. So it's this incredible mix of like very ancient and very new.
I love it. Yeah.
It's lovely. It's where the summer, where everybody comes to do summer school, because it's just like the nicest part of the UK. But then you also have this incredible countryside and landscape on your doorstep. Like Kent, where Canterbury is known as the Garden of England because it's just beautiful. It's very easy for you to access. Whereas if you're in London, you know, you get trapped in London and you don't ever leave it. Whereas if you're in a different city, you go into London, you see the city, you're inspired by the city, but you're also inspired and not overwhelmed by the area you live in. And you also have this very easy access to areas that do look very different around the UK. You also, because of where Canterbury is, have a very quick and easy access to Europe as well. You know, Europe's on your doorstep. London's wonderful, but artists need to be where inspires them. You know, most artist communities in the UK are not in London. They tend to be in slightly more rural areas because it gives people the chance to breathe. It gives people to really a chance to see their environment without being overwhelmed. Very little is actually created in the centre of London because it's a very busy medieval city and there's just no space to do so. So whilst there are some great institutions in the centre of London, you're going to be fighting for studio space up until the very end of the day.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Yeah. With us, you're going to have studio space and dedicated buildings from the very beginning. And we're going to not treat you like babies, but we're going to hold your hand and make sure that you are comfortable with the world around you so that you don't get overwhelmed and that you don't get these horrible feelings of stress when you go out to be inspired by the places around you. So it's very, very different.
When students graduate, actually, again, that's one of the questions that I usually get, especially when we talk about, when I talk with my students about institutions that are not like centrally located. Like, what happens then? You know, I graduate, you know, what happens then? Do I have to move to London? You know, is anyone, you know, going to support me after my graduation? Will I be really prepared for the real world while I was kind of nurtured a little bit during my undergraduate years? So how does UCA, do you guys kind of, you know, support your students after graduation? How are you kind of introducing them to the industry, the real world industry how to find a job, you know, a real job, etc., etc. You know, are there any maybe things that you would like to point out?
Yeah, so as I said, we do all of the courses, do these fantastic live briefs with industry from the beginning, very beginning of their studies. So students are working with industry experts, they're getting their face out there, all of that kind of help within their course. A lot of the, well, all of the courses as well, we're not just teaching you how to be an artist and a creative, we're teaching you how to be an adult in the real world. You might be the best filmmaker, the best game designer in the world, but if you know how to tell people that, what's the point? So we teach you how to network, we teach you how to build your own personal networks, we teach you how to be an independent worker, whether you're starting your own business or you're working for a company. We do things like help you to understand what you should put on a website to introduce yourself and how to create professional portfolios. You will do networking with industry and industry experts and organizations throughout your studies. Depending on your course and the way your industry works, we'll have you doing lots of competitions as well. And competitions are an amazing way for you to get your name out there. You know, in the UK or internationally. So it's all about exposing you as an artist to the artistic community, and then exposing the artistic community to you. So getting you to know how to network with other people. And this carries on after you graduated. Most of our academics are working in the industry still in some capacity, whether they might be part-time lecturers and then they work for a business part-time, or they are full-time lecturers and they might do their own like side hustle and have their own side business. They are constantly working with industry and working with those networks. So they want to bring you guys into the industry. You know, they've created you as a student. They want with you. If you know, what's the point in creating a great filmmaker if you don't bring them into your industry? So the academics are actively seeking to find you places, to find you roles, and to bring you into the industry and the organizations that they are passionate about. So I think our employment pre-pandemic was 96.9% 6 months after graduation. I couldn't tell you what it is now because it's the measures are all over the place. It's very difficult to establish. But there's, you know, 1 in every 8 jobs in the UK is in the creative industries.
I think it's one of the, actually it's the second to oil or something, I was told. Yeah, so it's the second or the third most important industry for the country. It
is, yeah. The statistics that I saw did say more people work in the creative industries than work in the automotive and oil industry put together. Yeah. So it's a huge industry and it's growing at 5 times the rate than the wider economy. So it is just pushing itself and pushing itself. And even during the pandemic, things continued, you know, filming continued, these creative gaming industries continued because they could just do it from home. So it was great for us.
Yeah, those were lucky people, yeah. Those who actually could work from home. Felicity, we have maybe like 10 minutes left to talk. So I wanted to ask you about how UCA is still interested in EU students. And I know that you guys, you know, you've introduced the EU scholarship, which brings the tuition fees, the international tuition fees down to the local level. So EU students, they pay £9,250 per year. Yeah, now in the reality they have to pay this money, but it's not as maybe huge as at some other universities. So thank you a lot for trying to keep us, you know, alive a little bit. And this still creates, you know, some kind of an opportunity for certain students who will be able to maybe afford to consider the United Kingdom and UCA in particular. So I really want to point this out. You know, I actually had this a student this year, my first student to UCA, who was an international student from EU, paying the EU fee, scholarship fee with the visa. So we got everything, you know, in successfully. So she's hopefully happy.
Fabulous.
Doing a degree in fashion design. Yes. So yeah, I really want to kind of again like emphasize that the visa application process is very easy as well for EU students. So it's very straightforward. There are no a kind of obstacles made for you to get the visa. You don't really need actually to give your passport to any embassy, so everything is done online. And in my experience, I had 3 visa applications this year, and it took us 1 week to get our visas confirmed. Yeah, so that's really, in terms of the process, it's easy. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. As soon as, of course, it's a little bit, it's sad that students will not have access to funding, but still for those who are willing or able to pay around 11,000 euros, which is the equivalent of your fee, that's a good chance to get this super exciting education. What I want to point out to everyone and to say to you, I still haven't found an alternative to the majority of courses taught by UK institutions. Unfortunately, in Europe, it's almost impossible. So you still have a few here or there, but you don't have such a variety from which you can choose. So I highly recommend UCA and the United Kingdom in general to everyone who is considering, you know, high level or high quality higher education. Yeah. Pretty much in any field, but especially in the creative arts. Yeah, especially in the creative arts. What I also wanted to ask you, you've mentioned summer programs. Are those summer programs for already existing students, or do you have some kind of summer programs for those who are in high school as well?
So we actually just got the information about it really recently. So you'll have to excuse me if I don't know it all off the top of my head, but we are going to be launching summer programs. I mean, we've always had them in the past, but then obviously with the pandemic and, you know, we didn't do it then because it just didn't work. But so I'm just getting that information up so I can tell you exactly. But yeah, we're going to be restarting them this summer. We're going to be doing 2 different versions. So there's going to be a 2-week summer school, and then there'll be a 3-week summer school. The 3 summer school will carry credit with it, will carry university credit. It really depends whether you're bothered about that or not. Some students are, some students aren't. Basically, you will be able to follow a pathway of your choice. So there's going to be multiple different subjects: fashion, architecture, gaming, whatever you are interested in. Some of the classes will be quite general, but some of them, even the general ones, will allow you to find a real specialism within that. And we're going to have specialist academics for all of those programs as well. So let me just have a quick look.
But these are the courses, the programs for university students, those who are 18 plus?
No, they are only going to have to be, actually I don't have the specific age ranges, but the idea is to be able to take them from 16. The point, especially for the 2-week courses, is to be able to help students ensure that they are 100% that this is what they want to study, and build up their portfolio. So it's going to have those 2 different aspects, and they can study that from when they're 16. I'll get Trudy to double check and send the information to you. But
perfect. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a great opportunity, especially in the new reality, where maybe, you know, the choice towards the United Kingdom will be more cautious. So it's going to be, you know, they will want to try it out. So a summer course for someone who is in high school, trying to figure out what I want to study and go to the UK and see everything with their own eyes and actually experience the university itself. That's a great idea. So maybe some open days coming up, I don't know, maybe November or March. So how often do you organize them?
So we've got one open day coming up on Wednesday, so probably a bit short notice.
Yeah.
We're doing loads of online webinars and course introductions and portfolio guides, all sorts of things that are just about to start. I'm organising those, so they're going to be and then we will start with our open days again in the new year. So we're not going to do anything in December because it's cold and it's gross and no one wants to do anything. So we'll start with the open days in the new year. I don't have any dates for you, unfortunately. They haven't been confirmed yet.
That's fine. Yeah, it's just as an idea. Yeah, so
as soon as we start doing them again, we will let you know. And we do them very, very regularly. It's not, you know, we've already had 4 open days this year. So we'll be doing lots and lots. So don't worry. Yeah, we'll get on with it.
So please send me the information about the summer schools, especially about the part where those 16 plus can join. Yeah, for 2 weeks. That's a very good idea of introducing to the university to the new generation of international EU students.
Yeah.
So we are all in a little bit of a, you know, a different world, I guess, now. Okie doke. So, Felicity, thanks a lot for jumping in, and it was great meeting you and talking to you. You've told me a lot of things. I actually didn't have to ask you any questions. You kind of, you know, were ahead of my questions all the time. So, yeah, it just shows that you are yourself, I guess, very, you know, into the whole thing at university.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're one of the best representatives as well of how students are treated there. Yeah, but with all my heart and soul, I'm in love with the United Kingdom, and I recommend you say to every student pretty much that who I meet. Sometimes there are those people who really want to go to London and you can't do anything about it, but those who are open to different, you know, visions of how their university life might look like, I think UCA is one of the best places to spend 3 or 4 university years.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I was the same when I was 18. I really had it in my head that I must go to London, I must go to London. And then I did my postgraduate in London, and it was just, even at 21, it was so overwhelming and just so much. And I just got so distracted by everything London and just had to work so much in order to actually be able to live. So it's, as much as I love the city, it's not what everyone thinks it's going to be. And very few people actually live in central London. You know, pretty much tourists, universities, and the royal family. And it's yeah, it's a very not
okay
experience.
Let's see, what's your major, if I may ask?
I did for my undergraduate I did archaeology at Durham, and then for my postgraduate I did social anthropology at SOAS as part of the university.
Yeah.
So,
but those are amazing courses, actually. They're very interesting in terms of like how much information you can find about the world.
Yeah, it's
not only how the world now, but from what we started.
Exactly. Yeah, I used to get to spend my summers digging up graveyards on the beach next to a castle, so it was great. I loved it. It was amazing. I didn't do anything after I graduated.
Yeah. Thank you, Felicity. Yeah, so I think I will say goodbye to you now. Yeah, and yeah, let's be in touch, and hopefully, you know, not many, but some very motivated students doing degrees at UCA next year.
Fabulous.
Yeah, thank you, Lucia. Have a nice evening. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.